Hey there, thanks for tuning into Duck Bricks. I'm Chris, and a couple of days ago I posted a full tour and haul walkthrough of my recent visit to Andy's Brick Shop in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Well, after going back to Andy's Brick Shop, there was one thing I did not mention. For those of you who don't know, Andy's is a massive used Lego store. It is one of the largest ones in the US, and while my haul in the last video focused primarily on the system-based aspects of my visit to the store, there was one very nice thing that they had going on, and it was a massive bulk bin of Lego Bionicle pieces, both from Generation 1 and Generation 2, and even some stuff from before Bionicle G1, like Throwbots and Slicers, all mixed together in a massive bin. And what's really awesome is that you could get a Ziploc full of Bionicle pieces for only $20. And man, did I manage to fit a lot of things in that Ziploc. So I actually walked away with 3 major Ziplocs. We'll be looking at 2 of them in detail today. The other one I have already parted out, which we'll discuss a little bit later in the video, but we'll be getting to that in a little bit. Without further ado, I decided to actually set aside a separate video for this Bionicle haul because there's a lot to get into and a lot of really exciting parts, and I'm curious to hear what are your thoughts on this Bionicle haul, and do you think it was worth it? Would you want to visit Andy's Brick Shop to get a haul like this yourselves? Let me know in the comments below. And so let's just dive right into the first bag. Alright, so here we have everything that fits in just one $20 bin. So yes, all of these parts are only $20. It's a fantastic deal at Andy's, especially because you may notice there's a lot of really rare parts here. So for those of you who don't know, the Brutaka set was the only set to include the Hordika feet in pearl gold, and I found 3 of them in the bin, so this is a fantastic deal. These pieces alone will already be very valuable, and even beyond that, there's a lot of really special things here. Now I tried to focus my gathering for this particular Ziploc based on weaponry and different sorts of armor pieces as well, so I also tried to focus on getting as many G2 weapons as I could, especially because these Tahu Magma Surfboard or Flame Sword elements are actually pretty rare, especially because many of the Generation 2 Bionicle sets are now very rare on the aftermarket. I was able to pick up a few of these, and I think a few more in one of the other bags, so really nice to get those alongside some of the other Generation 2 pieces, like the Galley Aqua Axe here is a nice piece to get, and I'm sure there's a few more scattered around here as well. So we'll set aside those ones. It's always a pleasure to find masks hidden within the bins as well, so I was able to find a gold version of the Onua's Pakari here, which is a fantastic find. Was very happy to see this particular mask. And speaking of the other masks, let's kind of dig around here, see if I was able to find any more. One of these Stars Hal pieces, which is always just useful to have in general, and even had some other stuff like the Kopaka Akaku Nuva adaptive armor form for the Fantoka version of him, and all sorts of other things scattered throughout. I managed to get a few Roxy heads specifically because I am actually working on a Roxy project. This has been a couple of years in the making, but I'm trying to build all of the canonized Bionicle Roxy, and in order to do so, all the different 42 cannon forms, so I'm trying to gather as many heads as possible so I can spray paint them and whatnot, so I don't feel too bad because I got it in bulk lots. Another G2 weapon piece here, except this time in white for Kopaka's version of the blades. And we can actually move on. Another thing that I managed to get a ton of are these light up sword pieces, especially from the Toa Inika. These were used obviously throughout the Toa Inika and Umbra sets, but I was just surprised by the sheer amount of them I could find by just digging through the bin. This is quite a lot of different ones, almost every single one from the entire way from Nuparus to Kongus here. We've got Hollies, Jallers, and Hookies and so on. So all sorts of different ones here that you can find. Really cool to get a ton of these, and even though I didn't necessarily need all of those, it was still nice to be able to get a ton of these just to set aside in case I wanted to use them for any other builds. Again, we got more Roxy heads here, and let's kind of start to move alongside the rest of these builds here. Again, some more light up swords. Another piece that I really prioritized getting were these wing pieces. They were first introduced for the Makuta Mystica sets, but of course were reused in the Hero Factory Thornrack set. I just really like the look of these wings. I find them very helpful for any sort of mocking purposes. It's always good to get multiples of these, so I just managed to pick up a few of them as I found them in the bin. Now moving onwards, one of the rarest pieces here is the Silver Krika helmet. This is a really special piece that only was molded in silver for one of the largest Glatorian vehicles. I was very lucky to find this just as is within the set itself, so it was really cool to get this particular mask to set aside. And speaking of rare one-off pieces, I actually managed to pick up a pearl silver version of the Baraki Takedox armor piece here. This one is actually particularly rare because it was only used in the Makuta Vampra set from the Fantoka line of Makuta, so it's really cool to get this particularly special piece, which is required to complete that set. Then moving on, we got a few Tahu Nuva blades here, always a good piece, and a lot of the canonized Bionicle builds use these pieces. If you follow any other videos in my channel, I publish weekly Bionicle Fanon reviews where I review all of the fan-created Bionicle models, and so these are really good to get because they're fairly expensive on Bricklink if you want to buy them in bulk, and there's a lot of models that use them a ton at a time, so it was really cool to get these on top of some special black Hordika Vakama flame pieces here, which are very nice. Were only used in some of the Bionicle system sets, so it's really cool to get a recolor of one of the weapons. Now moving alongside here, we have some more pieces like the special Toa Mari Holly wing pieces, only ever used for that particular buildable figure, so cool to get these to set aside. Now, a few of these other pieces are actually specifically made for the Toahaga, and I'm anticipating having to spray paint some of these for the canonized final versions of the Toahaga's metallic armor. So I got a few extras of the standard Metru armor piece in case I need to color them metallic green or copper or anything like that. And I also managed to get a few just random Toa Metru-esque armor pieces, especially because I'm kind of anticipating having to actually be able to color these a specific color, even the specific 2007 aquatic piece that was used on Toagaki's MOC. So all of these pieces here are really just duplicates that I can mess around with in case I am struggling to find the perfect color for spray painting. Before I do my review, I wanted to actually make sure I had all of these set aside to experiment with, so this is all probably going to just be messed around with for the Toahaga Canon Contest final builds whenever they actually finally canonize the models. Now, at the time this video is recording, the final entry submission was kind of just sent in, so the window to enter has ended, but the voting period has not begun yet. For all I know, by the time this video actually gets published, the final versions will already be released. So just take that in mind. I usually record and edit videos a few months or even weeks before they actually come out, so in case this is a bit outdated, my apologies. Moving along here, we have another one of the exclusive Makuta Vampra pieces. Really nice to get this particular piece in the flat silver there, so always good to get that. And overall, we have just a mix of different pieces and blade elements here and there. So some random Knights Kingdom blades, always useful. This particular blade of the Liwa Nuva Katana piece in dark orange only appeared in the Gukko set, the Jalaran Gukko set. A lot of the canonized Dark Hunters and even some of the Rahi use this, so I just found it's really helpful to get a few of these. Now, a few of these other pieces in particular, like the dark red Skrull/Vorox armor here, is very useful for one particular build. It's a very special build that I've actually been working on to do a review of, and this dark red version only appeared in a Hero Factory set for the first wave of Hero Factory, so always good to get this particular piece. And I managed to get a few other ones in the standard Vorox colors here. I'm actually working on some other stuff that require those for the canonized Bionicle reviews, so that's why I got those particular armor pieces. There's a black one here as well from the Skrull and Von Nebula, so all sorts of good stuff here. Trying to see if there's anything else of note, and particularly one thing that I really wanted to get a ton of. Every time I sort through the bulk bin, there's always a good amount of these, but it's these older style of friction joints. The particular rubber on these does not actually stand the test of time too well, so they're kind of useless as friction joints, but what they're really good for is specifically mounting pieces at this angle for Technic axles. LEGO hasn't really done anything like this again in this particular shape, and they're really actually hard to come by on Bricklink. They'll put you back maybe about $1 or $2 each, especially if you're buying in bulk, so I try to get as many as I can whenever I go to the Andy's Brick Shop runs. Moving on, I'm trying to see if there's anything else that's particularly rare that I want to call out. Another thing that you may notice that I got a few of are these tan standard Bionicle hand pieces. I specifically got these pieces in tan because tan is actually a pretty rare color. It was only used in one of the Huki Matoran sets, as well as some of the Throwbot sets, so if you want to use them in tan, you kind of have to get it from those sets, so I just wanted to get as many of those as I could find. One of the Ninjago things slipped in. This is from the Ninjago Dawn of Iron Doom set for the Season 7 Vermilion army, but it's good to get that in copper. And I'm actually going to use this as a color reference just in case one of the canonized models for the Toahaga requires copper. So that's why I got that particular piece. Now moving on, we have the special piece for the Kongu Mari torso here. Always good to get that. Another one of the Skrull Vorox armors in black, and we're kind of about running through most of the useful pieces in this lot, or these special ones. Some interesting recolors that only came in stuff like LEGO Racers or LEGO Technic, like the blue Borox shields here. And I also managed to get a few special Robo Rider wheels. Just a random Crata because I just found it in the bin, and all sorts of other stuff like the system scale Vizirac spiders as well, which are always just fun to kind of amass an army of. Now, beyond this, that's probably about all of the very special things I managed to get here, other than just some standard stuff like the Vizirac Carapace here, which is always cool to get. The Keyed Orange version of the Pohatu Nuva Climbing Claws, again, only in a system set, and all sorts of different stuff like the special G2 Kopaka armor piece and the black tentacle piece. This is actually pretty rare in black, so it's cool to see this particular element as well. All in all, this was a great haul. I'm very happy with how this turned out, and this is only one $20 Ziploc, and we still got another one to go. So let's shift these all aside and take a look at the next Ziploc right now. All right, so here we have the second Ziploc bag for $20. Here is the second complete haul from the Andy's Brick Shop store. Again, kind of a mishmash of bits and pieces of different stuff from different generations of Bionicle, both Generation 1 and 2. Mostly Generation 1 stuff, but a few G2 stuff that I just simply couldn't pass up. Let's actually start off with those. We have some of the weapons from the Toa Master Gali set. These are the special ones, just always good to get these pieces because, again, the G2 parts are pretty rare and expensive. One of the Onua G2 claws right here, just a good piece to have in general for both armor as well as a weapon. And you've actually got one of the skull axes here. This is actually a pretty useful piece. And again, these pieces are quite rare and expensive on Bricklink because they only came in the G2 sets like the Tahu blade here. So I just managed to get as many of them as I could. Moving on throughout this haul, we can see some other pieces from that particular era of Bionicle. Let me see if I can pick out any particular ones. I know there's quite a few different skeleton bones here. So from the skeleton villains, I managed to get a few of the bone pieces just so I could build up my own MOCs or whatnot of those characters. And yeah, still a lot of CCBS stuff. I recall on this particular one, I was running a little bit out of time, so there's a point when I was just kind of grabbing whatever pieces seemed remotely interesting. That does mean a lot of just random CCBS limbs, because actually I'm away from my house right now, so I wanted to actually have a few CCBS pieces to play around with and build my own stuff with. So I got a few to just have over here, and some of the most special ones include this printed piece from the Darth Vader set. You can see right here, this is from the Darth Vader buildable figure because it has that very special print on it. So it's always good to have duplicates of special stuff like that I'm unlikely to get others of. An olive green piece from the Chi Kragger buildable figure. See if we can pick out any other CCBS stuff here and there, as well as some more G2 heads. Always good to get a few more of these, and so on. So we'll speed up the video now. I'm going to pick everything out, and then we're going to move on. Alright, so I'm certain I've missed some here and there, but I've made a little bit of a CCBS pile here. Some of the more special stuff include the Breakout Breeze torso, as well as the printed element for K2SO from the Star Wars Construction line. We've got one of the G2 2016 Uniter weapons, specifically from Liwa Uniter of Jungle, so good to get that, a pretty rare piece. And of course the piston add-on for G2, actually a piece that I really do like. I know it's a bit controversial, but I do actually really like this piece. And just all sorts of different stuff here and there. This one actually is not from a construction set. This is from a LEGO Batman set, the Brother Eye Takedown. It actually was one of the claws on the Brother Eye mech, but it somehow made its way in, probably because of this construction piece, so I figured why not just grab the piece, because I have been trying to get as many of these claw pieces as I can in different colors like so, just because I find them pretty useful pieces as a whole. But moving on from the G2 and CCBS stuff, I'm sure I missed some stuff here and there, but that's most of it. We can probably move on to the rest of the G1 stuff in this haul. So I actually managed to get a few things that are even before Bionicle. A lot of these Throwbot wheels, they had a ton of these just scattered throughout the parts bin, so I figured why not just get them the Throwbot wheels and discs here. just fun, interesting pieces to have. I know that there's some sort of collectability aspect to them. I certainly will not be collecting every single one of them. That is probably something I will not achieve at any point. It just doesn't really interest me too much. Maybe someday, but it is still nice to get as many as I can for a very good price, aka just throwing them in the bin because they're just unique printed pieces to have. And if I ever do decide to collect them all at some point, at least this is a good start. So I'm gonna set those aside right here. And moving on, we have just some other Generation 1 Bionicle pieces. Now, starting off, I wanted to showcase some of the head elements because I managed to get a couple of these heads just for random mock building. This is mostly also for building the Canon Bionicle models. Always good to get the transparent yellow eye stalk, a pretty rare color used for Takanuva. And it's also really cool to get the Mata headpiece in Kid Orange here, which actually only came in one of the Bionicle system sets. You can see that it's actually still attached to the system brick that it came on for the Battle of Metru Nui set, which is a funny detail. You can see exactly where those pieces came from. Moving on, just some other random heads here, just the Metru head. And I actually also got one of the Hero Factory masks. This was one of the dual masks in the flat silver here, the pearl silver. It was used for the Drill Dozer figure, even though the reverse side was used for Firelord in gunmetal gray. Moving on to here, just some more head pieces and some more armor pieces as well. The Toa Metru armor pieces. This one you can actually tell came from a Kikanalo build. You can notice that because it has this other piece still attached to it on the other end of it. That piece right there was actually only used for the Kikanalo build in conjunction with this armor piece, so it's always kind of funny to see exactly where certain pieces come from. Got some more of the armor pieces here. I specifically needed them in black because they just were pretty rare. I just wanted to get a few more of them. And some more Vakama pieces here, the Vakama Blazer Claw from the Hordika form. And just all sorts of different things. Nothing too crazy to call out. Some nice recolors of Borak shields, like the Parok shield here in blue for LEGO Hockey of all things. Speaking of LEGO Hockey, we also have a recolor of the orange Nuva shoulder armor, which also came from that LEGO Sports Hockey theme. And I got a few armor pieces, again, I mentioned earlier for the Toahaga. One of them uses this particular armor piece. It's supposed to be in metal blue or silver, depending on what the official canon color decides to be, but I just got one in case I need to spray paint it. Moving on, we have some other random pieces here, like the Pohatu Adaptive Armor Claw element, which was only in the Pohatu Nuva Adaptive Armor set, as well as one of the claw elements, which was only in a Hero Factory set, specifically from one of the villains. He used it as some sort of a vortex or black hole blaster. Moving on, just some torsos. You can see this is actually part of what I believe is Nadiki because of the way that this whole system is set up with the silver Technic elements on the side. A scroll blade because I just think these are cool. LX spines because it's a nice piece to have duplicates of, and all sorts of random stuff. Specifically, I got this one because I wanted the silver recolor of the Borak Galak armor shield here, specifically because I need this for one of the Toahaga builds. Moving on, we have some other Roxy elements. This one is a lot more mixed than the other one. Nothing too crazy to call out in particular, but just all sorts of fun pieces here and there. And again, we have the Kid Orange Pohatu climbing claws, some builds for the Ta Matoran from the Mask of Light era of Bionicle. This one probably was for Jaller or Takua. And we've got all sorts of different stuff here, Technic pieces, armor pieces, some more Roxy heads. Funnily enough, some rubber bands, because you can never have enough rubber bands, especially when building all sorts of different creations. And honestly, that probably about sums up most of the interesting pieces in this lot. It's a pretty mixed one, a lot of very strange pieces that I don't necessarily know if I will need them for anything in the future, but it's always good to just continue to add on to my Bionicle pieces collection. And of course, it's always fun to find random recolors, some of which I completely forgot even existed, such as this silver recolor of Turaga Matau's staff, which was only used for a LEGO Racers car. I forgot that existed until I saw it and I had to pick it up. So just all sorts of fun stuff, and I think this is a really good example of the random interesting pieces that you'll just find when digging through the bulk Bionicle bins at Andy's Brick Shop. You never know what you're going to find, whether it be a special G2 weapon piece, or whether it's some sort of recolor that was exclusive to the system sets, just all sorts of really fun and unique pieces, and I can't wait to get building with all of these. Now, just one thing before we leave. there was actually a third bag that I purchased from the particular store, but unfortunately, that one has already been fully sorted because this one actually included mostly fully built pieces of different sets. I mentioned at the beginning of this video that I found bits and pieces of the Karzani set, of Maxilos and Spinax, of Brutaka, even some of the older stuff like the original 2001 Rahi, like the Muwaka and Kane Ra. So I actually took apart all of those pieces and sorted them in my own personal temporary Bionicle storage space. I actually have a storage system set up here in my apartment for college, and we'll take a look at that right now because most of those pieces have actually gone into building that sorting system. Alright, so as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, I managed to walk away with a third Ziploc bag of Bionicle pieces. But that one was full of partially disassembled sets, so I actually went ahead and took them completely apart and used their component parts to feed into my temporary storage full of Bionicle pieces. This is just something I kind of have set up temporarily at my current apartment that I'm staying in for my final year of college, so it's not really my full parts collection for Bionicles, CCBS construction, whatnot, but just something so it's a little bit of a home away from home and I have some pieces to play around with and build while I am here at college. So I of course disassembled all these pieces and I have them actually fully sorted in terms of Technic beams and Technic axles, connectors, some random body parts, the Technic block part from the Robo-Riders and Throwbots series. We've even got some of the different weapons and claws and whatnot, some Bionicle feet and all sorts of different pieces mixed in throughout this generally mixed up and disassembled different bits and pieces for Bionicle. Now most of these are actually the pieces that I use for my Bionicle Fanon reviews, so if you are new to this channel, every single week I post a new Bionicle Fanon review which showcases a fan-created Bionicle model that was canonized either via official LEGO contests or stuff like the TTV canonization contests, which are actually still ongoing right now. It's really nice to have a ton of different Technic and Bionicle pieces just fully sorted, especially away from my home so I can continually be building. And as you can see down here, I got a lot more stuff. All the weapons and miscellaneous accessory pieces kind of go in this particular bag right here. All sorts of different unique things from both Bionicle to even Knight's Kingdom. You can see a few of the Knight's Kingdom swords which will particularly be used for the Toahaga. And I have a ton of Rockshi parts there for a special Rockshi project I am working on, which has been under the development for several years. And lastly, one final thing I forgot to mention is one of the rarest parts I got from this haul went directly to this particular MOC that I will be reviewing in the future, and that is the Keyed Orange 2007 Underwater Armor Plate. This was only featured in the Scopio set from the Glatorian Bionicle line. It costs around $7 to $10 per piece on Bricklink, so I was super lucky to find it in the bulk bin, which already covered the cost of the entire Ziploc. And you never know what you'll find at Andy's. Alright, and with that, we have summed up this massive Bionicle bulk parts haul from Andy's Brick Shop, one of the world's and US's largest used LEGO stores. Again, let me know down in the comments below, did you like this video? Did you like the contents of the haul? And were you like me, always searching through the pieces as I showed the video to find the rarest stuff in the bin? So I hope you enjoyed this. Definitely, if you are in the Philly area, go and check out Andy's Brick Shop, officially in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, but it's a quick drive from the Center City area, and it's always a really great time. They always have the perpetual massive Bionicle bulk bin, which is, again, a fantastic deal. I hope you enjoyed this video, and definitely stay tuned for even more LEGO news, reviews, discussion, and analyses coming your way very soon. And thank you so much for tuning into Duck Bricks. I'll talk to you again very soon. Bye-bye for now.